I stand 10 toes on the fact that the only thing worse than having girlfriends who are male-centered is having a mother who is male.
When you have decentered men and you're surrounded by male-centered women, especially the male-centered women, if she's your mom, and you as a daughter, you are in your decentering men journey or you've decentered men already, those set of women are very dangerous, especially when they are your mom and you've not got contact with them. Your mom being a male-centered woman is crazy, because we talk about pick-me women that our friends or our age group and all of that. Pick-me women, they are very dangerous. Stay away from them and all of that. Now you have a mom that is male-centered, because I feel like for me, I feel like almost all mothers were male-centered. I feel like some of them that grew up not to be male-centered, they had to unlearn some things and learn new things. Have you had to deal with a male-centered mom before? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I have a reaction on videos of women that have male-centered mothers, and they come to tell us the things that their mom have told them, the things that they've experienced, and all of that. Quite interesting videos. And let's watch the videos together, then we'll come back and talk about it.
What's really heartbreaking is I realized my mom made everything about a man, getting a man, finding a man, and that has what's been communicated to me. And when I think about the self-esteem struggles that I've had throughout my entire life, they can all be hinged on this fact that thematically in my life, she made everything about a man. One time I sent her this photo, right, kind of showing her how my hair grew over the past 3 years of having locks. And it was so crazy because she even made that about a man. Like, how do you make my hair growth about a man? Damn. So I'm reading this book called Men Don't Love Women Like You by G.L. Lambert, and he's getting my ass together. And it's crazy how a stranger is telling me about my worth far more than my mother ever had. And that's where I think a lot of us end up getting stuck, is that we're trying to now in our adult years believe, because of authors, because of therapists and life coaches like myself, because our friends are telling us how worthy we are, and we're so confused, we're scratching our heads because we're like, wait, we've never been made out to be special. And a lot of women can resonate with the fact that a lot of our parents made it more so about, you need this to have a man, you need that to have a man, you better cook or a man won't, you better not cut your hair because a man don't. Everything was about a man. And I realized my mother never really made it a point to be like, listen, you are so special, a man better, she never made it clear that a man must come a certain way, which made it so easy for me to just be impressed by any man that would come along, which made it so easy for me to just accept the bare minimum treatment. And I realized this didn't just happen with men, this happened with women too, where, again, there was nothing that ever communicated, hey, you are special. Someone should treat you like this. Someone should do this for you. Someone should come at you with this kind of energy. It was never like that. It was always, hey, you need to make sure you're on point. Which is why a lot of women have a hard time believing they're the prize, which is why a lot of women easily buy into, well, we both can be prizes. Like, no, that. I don't give a what the here growing up. In my 30s, it's such a redemptive season for me, because there's so much I didn't understand in my teens, so much I didn't understand in my 20s. But in my 30s, oh, you will be convinced that I was raised by, like, the Queen of England, the way I recognize my importance, the way I understand how I should be treated, and the way I'm not tolerating anything less than what I establish my standards to be. But it's just so crazy. When I think about it, I'm like, dang, there were just certain things that were never communicated to me. No one ever made me feel like I'm so special, someone needs to come like this. The only time I believe my mom ever did a great job of making me feel like I was special is when it came to making money. She was like, you can do anything you want. You can make that money, honey. You are so smart. You are Marsha B. You can become anything. And she only did that because she wanted me to really follow that whole pre-med train. And I've vented about that enough on other TikToks. But I just think it's so crazy how many parents do this to their children, and more specifically their daughters. And if you can relate to that, I am with you. I am so with you on that. But it is so important you take it upon yourself to do some redemptive, healing, restorative work to believe in your worth, to believe in what you deserve, and start to like shield yourself and build yourself up to receive nothing less than these new established standards that you should have when it comes to dating. You are the prize. You are the prize, and a man that is willing to put the work in becomes a winner when he earns connection to someone as divine as you. That this is what we should have always been hearing. This is what we should have always been hearing, but instead we think less of ourselves because we've always been told, be like this, be like that to get a man. That you are already all that in a bag of chips is just so high time you come to terms with that and start to have standards in your dating life that match that. If you need help and you need to work with a life coach / therapist to help you navigate that, I'm so happy to be on that journey with you. So many of my clients and I are doing this work together to help them live the lives that they've always deserved, regardless of what they've heard from either their mother, their fathers, any other caregivers that they've ever had in their life. It is not too late. Okay, I don't care how old you are, 40, 50, I mean, I care. It is never too late to start to do this work. So I hope this helps somebody out there. If it resonates, chat with me in the comments. Let me know how you feel. Until next time, love you, mean it, bye.
I stand 10 toes on the fact that the only thing worse than having girlfriends who are male-centered is having a mother who is male-centered. I still randomly think about the fact that when I was a kid, I used to call my mother all the time and she would never answer. She wouldn't answer. She wouldn't call back. I used to feel like I was some ugly man stalking my mother. And same thing for my sister. Like, it was not just me. And it got to a point where finally we gave up and we just stopped calling her because she didn't answer. And then one day my dad asked me and my sister if we had called our mom recently, and we both said, no, we don't call that lady because she doesn't answer us. And my dad looked at us like we had 10 heads, and he said, what are you talking about? Every time I call her, she answers immediately, or she calls me right back. Okay. Mind you, according to my mother, my father is this awful, terrible person who abused her. And he actually did do those things. He did do those awful things. But she still to this day answers his phone calls, and she doesn't answer her children. He could get a response out of her on any given day, no matter what it has done to her, but her children cannot.
The thing that I really disliked about my mom growing up was that she was very male-centered to me, my opinion. But anyways, these are some of the things she taught me about men. She told me to never tell a man about like past trauma that you have been through in other relationships. She said because all they will do is meet you at that level, no matter how bad they try to empathize with you. She was like, you never tell them. You always tell them the good things. You never tell them the bad things. Number 2 is that if you want to tell if a man is stingy, if you guys are getting ready to meet up and he's on his way, ask him to stop by the store and get you a soda. If he brings you one soda and he doesn't get you more than one thing or something that you like, he's stingy if he just gets you that one soda. Number 3, she told me that no matter how mad you get, never, even if you're lying, never tell a man that you did something you didn't do, and never tell a man if you cheated, because he will hold that over your head forever. Now me, if I did some shit, I'm going to definitely tell you, and if you ever try to hold it over my head, I'm going to tell you I sucked too. Sorry, I'm not going to lie. But I learned that because who are you to hold something over my head? And it's because my mom told me not to tell a man anything because he will hold it over your head. So I counteract that shit by telling you the real truth. She also told me growing up that you got to let a man know off the bat what you want. Don't try to come later on and flip the script if you was accepting what it was in the beginning, and then you try to switch it up and be like, well, now I want these needs met. You got to let them know from the start what it is and stand on it. Yeah. She also told me that you should never continuously have your friend and your man around each other a lot, because eventually one of them are going to catch feelings. And I can't say if this is true or not, but I will say, based on y'all story time parts, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep that one. And if I think of any others, I'm definitely gonna do a part 2. That was funny because I haven't thought about those in a while, but I thought I would share. But let me know if you think she was tripping in some of those or just isolated incidents. Or
want to handle this topic with as much care and sincerity as I can. So please know that despite what I'm about to say, I have no ill intentions behind it. I believe that there is a legacy of structural and historical forces that play a huge role in shaping the male-centered orientation of Gen X women in particular. First things first, I think that the war on drugs and mass incarceration is a contributing factor for sure. The mass incarceration of Black men in the 80s and 90s due to the war on drugs absolutely decimated Black families. And so Gen X women often saw their fathers, their brothers, partners in prisons. And I think that this created, one, a deep sense of loss, but also a protective loyalty. So in this, it created this holding it down mindset. So we see this big culture of Black women who are expected to stay loyal and supportive no matter what. And in our community, it often holds a badge of honor to do so. This centers Black men's survival and redemption above women's own needs. With this in mind, I think a lot of the media portrayal flaunted that ride or die trope. From music videos to movies, the media glorified being this ride or die woman. So remaining loyal to a man through infidelity, through incarceration, struggle, even emotional unavailability, it still was a badge. I also think that a lot of times in that media, women were often only portrayed in relation to men, whether they're the girlfriend, the mother, the caretaker. So that reinforced the idea that their worth is tied to a man. There are certainly other contributing factors: religion tied to patriarchal influences, respectability, politics, and protection. So I won't touch too much on those, but the one that I want to spend a bit more time on is the fact that they are like the latchkey generation. This is a generation that was raised during great economic strain. We're talking Reaganomics, leading to severe job loss in urban areas. Oftentimes, they came home to empty houses while single mothers worked multiple jobs, very long hours. And because of this, they grew up very fast. They became emotionally self-sufficient way too early. And I love generation insights, by the way. So just look into like latchkey kids and all that. So I'm just kind of like connecting dots here on my own. Let me know like if you're following what I'm saying. So anyways, because of this, right, I think it created in them this hunger for connection and emotional stability. So this is something that they are likely seeking in romantic partnerships once they were of age. I think there's also a deep-seated fear of abandonment or disconnection. So this leads to them clinging very tightly to these romantic relationships, even when they aren't healthy. And then finally, I think this led to a belief that being chosen, especially by a Black man, was a form of safety and validation that they couldn't find elsewhere. And I can go on and on about, Black men and masculinity and all that, but protection and safety is something that they saw in Black men. I think when you pair these factors with this overwhelming desire to want to fix what the system has broken, you have a generation that felt duty-bound to stay, ride, and cover. Because if they didn't, then who would? I think in a lot of ways, millennials sought out to fix things that were broken, from the way that they approach religion and spirituality to the way that they approach relationships and, decentering men, the way they approach the workplace, even things like the way they embrace like body positivity and like fought back against like that early 2000s diet culture. And it's interesting to see now with like Gen Z basically like coming back full circle, and we're seeing this interest in, femininity and trad wives, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I'm incredibly proud of women such as yourself, and I'm speaking to the person who made this comment, who even though they were raised a certain way, they did the work to get out of that. And the last thing I'll say is, I'm not someone who's going to be on here telling you guys, leave men behind. Like, I live in reality, okay? So with that stated, what I always encourage women to do is to put yourself first. I literally don't even tell women to decenter men. They shouldn't even be anywhere in your brain to have to move them elsewhere. You should be the center. You should be focused on being the best woman you could be, pouring and investing into yourself, whatever that looks like to you. And if you desire a man, I guarantee that the man who is meant for you is going to find you as a result.
My disdain for misogynistic women runs deep because my mother is one. And this is also why I'm so good at spotting these types of women from a mile away. Male-centered misogynistic women, or as I like to call them, boy girls, should not be overlooked. If you've ever been related or even friends with one, I'm sure even you can attest as to why. Hey, my name is Jasmine, and I was raised by a male-centered misogynist who was raised by a covert narcissist. And before I knew better, here are a few things that I had to learn the hard way. As their daughter, they don't see you as a reflection of them. They see you as competition. I noticed this in a way that my mom would create division between us even when I was a child. She would call my grandmother her mother, and she would call my little sister her child. It was
clear that we did not share things, not even family. Me being raised on my dad's side of the family majority of the time didn't help this at all, because yes, my mom's side of the family knew me. They knew who I was, but they didn't know me. They didn't know my character. They didn't know me outside of what my mom told them who I was. Up until I got to high school, she would badmouth me to everyone. She had control of my narrative. I remember she would even tell people that I didn't bathe. You're going around the family telling people that I didn't bathe, but you failed to mention as to why. I didn't bathe at her house. Bathed at everybody else's house. I didn't bathe at her house because she had roaches. Y'all, I'll never forget one time I was brushing my teeth getting ready for school and a roach fell on my shoulder from the ceiling. Bitch, I almost died. Not to mention we had this spider cricket problem. Like these jumping spiders would come out. Right? Listen, it was a reason why I didn't bathe over there. Sorry, call me dirty. But my point is the constant triangulation that she didn't just stop within our household. It went beyond. Like, I can give y'all a story time on when I was picking up my daughter from the daycare that she worked at, and the teacher told me that my mama was up there talking shit about me. She even wanted people at my daughter's school to not like me. For some odd reason, I always posed some sort of a threat to her. Another thing that I learned is because they hate being a woman, they in turn hate you because you are a girl. And I just feel like this is some internalized hate that they have for themselves that they project and pass on to their daughters. Because, for example, my grandmother grew up in a time where women, especially Black, couldn't even get a bank account yet. In a sense, I can see why women, specifically boomers, would hate being a woman, because boomers worked hard. Boomer women worked hard, y'all. And the fact that they couldn't get a house, bank account, and certain things in their name is some bullshit, because a lot of men, I know TV likes to portray that men have been the providers. Women have been the providers. Women have been the backbone of everything. So the fact that they couldn't get things in their name, I can see why they have that internalized hate within themselves. Then my grandma ended up becoming one of those women who always tried to prove that she can do everything that a man can do. And I feel like that internalized hate she definitely passed down to all of her daughters. And that's why her daughters ended up boy crazy. They all ended up wanting a man to desperately lead their lives because they didn't believe in their own ability to lead their own lives. I genuinely feel like they saw no value in themselves because they were girls, they were women, and unfortunately it just kept passing down. Something else these types of mothers do is strip you of love, confidence, and protection, because they see their self-worth tied to how men see them, not how they care for you. I grew up hearing things like, I gotta have a son so I can experience real love, as if me and my little sister's existence just wasn't enough. I also remember coming on my period in the 4th grade and my mom finding out. She found out because I did not tell her. I remember my mom telling my stepdad, I don't know why he had to know. And then I just remember being in the restroom and hearing him say, well, you need to watch her now. One, what an odd thing to say. So I remember thinking, oh yeah, she's definitely about to say something to him. Nope. Silent. She didn't say shit to that man. I also constantly got picked at for being skinny, having a unibrow, and my head being too big for my body by my mom. To this day, I do not like wearing my ponytail up because I feel like my head's too big. And I know that comes from that teasing, but honestly, when I think back on it, that wasn't harmless teasing. That was her chipping away at my confidence. It is dangerous to be a daughter of a male-centered woman. Hell, to even be in the same house as them. Thank God that I didn't experience what my cousin had to experience when she was placed in a house with a male-centered woman that subjected her to being by her husband. My cousin literally has a child to this day by the man who was her since elementary school. When I speak about misogynists on my page, I want y'all to understand that I am not just talking about men. Misogynists are dangerous. This includes the women. And as dangerous as it is to be their daughters, it's just as dangerous to be their friends. But I'll touch on that in another video.
Most of our mothers were male-centered. Some of them are still male-centered. And it's because their own mom as well were male-centered, and they were raised to be male-centered. They were not raised to center their lives. They were not raised to love themselves and choose themselves. So most of the time, I do not blame them. But some of our mothers now have unlearned and some of them now have centered men, and now they have centered their lives around themselves. Like they choose themselves all the time, and they are trying to tell their daughters, you have to choose yourself, you have to love yourself, and don't center your life around men. For me, yeah, most African mothers are male centered somewhere, and some are still male. A lot of them are still male centered, and they tend to raise their daughters to also be male centered. But you as a daughter now, you as an individual, you have to unlearn and decenter men and try to center your life and love yourself, right? If you don't do that, you still be male centered, because that's like a norm. It's a norm, because that is a change. They try to teach you exactly what their mothers taught them, so they'll pass it on to you, so you can pass it on to your own children as well. They always want you to center yourself, your life around men. That is why they always want to program us for marriage when we are young. Or you have to learn how to cook for a man. Or when you have visitors and all of that, you as a woman, you have to please the visitor. Like they always want to, make everything you do around a man. Even after you get married, right? They still always want to picture everything or put everything in line with your husband. Probably you're on low court, and they're like, oh, hope your husband likes it, or does your husband know that? You cannot just make a decision or do something just because you like it as an individual. It must be centered around a man. And the ones that are so super super dangerous are the ones that refuse. They know that they are centered around men, and they refuse to change. These ones are super dangerous, that they do terrible things to their daughters, and that, in fact, that sometimes cause no contact. That's why some adult children are going no contact to their parents. Male-centered mothers are often called boy moms. They glorify their sons so much, whereby they now belittle their daughters. You see them say, I am a mom of 4, or I'm a boy mom of 3 or something. They just call themselves boy mom, and they kind of worship their son so much. They show so much love and care for their son, but then expect their daughters, or push so much emotional labor on their daughters, and expect their daughters to just sacrifice their life, their energy, to satisfy everybody in the household. And because they love their sons so much, they can do anything. They can cover any shit their son is doing. If their son is a manipulator, if a cheater, is everything, they can cover any tracks for him. They always want to have problems with their son's girlfriend or their son's wife. When their son gets to a certain age whereby he can start having relationship with women, they always have problems. You see them like everywhere around, or trying to impress their son, or trying to make the other woman to impress them before their son can have anything to do with. They are just very dangerous. They are very dangerous. Anyways, you guys, have you dealt with a male-centered mom before? Let us know how it went down in the comment section. Can you share your thoughts in the comment section respectfully? As always, Sugar Mara Davids, and thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one, guys.